Hi, this is Teo from PuckerBlocks.com. Today I want to talk about pen watercolors versus tube watercolors. Watercolors are commonly available in either the tube format or the pen format. For the tubes, we have the common 15 ml tube and the smaller tube, which is around 5 to 7 ml depending on the manufacturer. Same thing goes for the pens. We have the half pen, which has a capacity of 2 ml versus the full pen, which is 2 times the size. All the colors I have today are artist qualities, so it's easier to compare them with lesser variables. So the main thing about pen watercolors is you need to make them wet first before you can use them. So you need some pre-wetting, or you can apply a wet brush directly onto the pens, but personally I like to wet them first before I start using, like put a drop of water onto the colors that I want to use and then mix the colors from there onwards. But for tube watercolors, you can just use it straight from the tubes. They are very easy to mix and they are very fast to mix. So let me just compare the main, just let you see the differences between maybe the color saturation between pen and tube watercolors. Let me just try cadmium orange. This is cadmium orange from Winsor & Newton. I think my brush is a bit dirty, but you can see that I mixed just a bit of pigment onto the water, and you can get quite an intense concentration of pigment. The color is very intense. Let me try it straight from the tube. This tube is from Daler Rowley. This is also artist quality. The cadmium orange is a bit different. Now for tubes, you can squeeze out a lot of pigment, and you can mix it even better and faster, and you can mix a large quantity. It's easier also to get a stronger concentration as compared to the pen, which if you want to mix a thicker wash, then you would have to go back and forth to mix the pigment on the cake. Sometimes I call the pens cakes. However, if you have, let's say, a full pen, then you'll be able to mix it much faster because your brush, usually when I dip it in, for the half pen I would dip it like this because the surface area is very small. But for full pens, I can actually dip the whole brush on its side, and because of that I can pick up more pigment and create more wash with it. In terms of color saturation, the chroma, really not much difference. I do not see any difference. But the main difference really comes from the usage. And with tube watercolor, sometimes you do not know how much you want to use, and if you squeeze out too much, they may go to waste. But if you use it like inside an airtight palette, if you squeeze out too much, you can still keep it because you can seal the palette. But it's more, personally for me, it's more convenient to use pens because once you finish using, they just dry up and you can just wash your palette and then you can keep it immediately. Using pen sets is definitely more convenient because you don't have to squeeze out the tubes. If I want to use 5 colors with tubes, I will have to squeeze out 5 tubes. But if I just use pens like this, I can use them straight away. So it's very portable, and usually pens come with compact sets like this, or you can buy refills like this. To get the best of both worlds, you can squeeze your tubes into pans. For example, if I want to work on a large area, I would squeeze the tubes into pans, full pans like this. So like I've said earlier, you can then put your whole brush onto the big pan and you can pick up a lot of pigments. And these pigments, they dissolve very easily as well. Because they are squeezed from tube, they reactivate very easily with water and you can again paint a lot. I find that it dissolves, if you are squeezing it from the tube and let them dry, it dissolves much easier than when compared to the hardened pans, the standard pans like this. Also, you can also use bigger brushes if you are going to be using big pans like this. For example, this is a 3/4 inch brush, maybe about 2 cm. You can see that the brush actually fits into the full-size pan. But I'm not going to be able to use this brush if I'm using a half pan like this. I'm going to damage the brush if I do not angle it correctly. So each of these full pans actually hold about 4 ml in capacity, and each tube is about 15 ml, so you can fill it almost 3 times, and it's very economical to do it this way. And you get the best of both worlds, and you can choose your own colors as well. This is another pen that I have. This is about half used. I've swapped out some of the pen colors with tube watercolors. So I squeezed in the tubes for this green, red, orange and yellow. Because tube paints are easier to dissolve, when I mix other colors with this particular yellow, and it dissolves easily, so I get a very dirty mixture here. It dirties the mixtures very easily. However, if I'm going to, let's say, use a real pen like this pen is not going to dissolve as easily, and because of that you do not get color contamination as easily, and it's easier to clean off the dirty color. Not so with this one. It takes a bit of practice in order not to contaminate your colors. The best way to do that, of course, is to clean your brush before you mix it. I've been using watercolor tubes and pens for a few years now. Personally, I wasn't able to tell the difference between them in terms of color vibrancy and intensity. As long as you use artist grade quality watercolors, you're not going to see much difference. The main difference really comes about when you're using them outdoors. For example, if I want to paint a large painting, I would definitely go for tubes, because I can squeeze out pigments easier, and when I add water I can get a huge mixture very fast. If you want to get a huge mixture with half pan sets like this, it will take a while because you need to use the brush to get the pigment off the pan, and because the surface area is a bit small, it will take some time for you to create that mixture. However, you can get the best of both worlds if you actually use tubes and pans. Use the tubes squeezed into pans like this. For this particular set, I have a full pan size, so I squeeze the tubes into this pan, and because the surface area is bigger, I can use a bigger brush. I can pick up more pigments, and because it's tube watercolors, it's easier to dissolve, so I can mix the paints faster and easier with this particular set like this. So what's the other main advantage, of course, about pan sets is they are very convenient. You can keep them easily. They are very compact. You can bring them anywhere, and it's very low maintenance. So that's all for today's video. If you have any questions, just feel free to ask me in the comment section below. And if you haven't subscribed to my YouTube channel, I'll be posting more art product reviews, sketching tips and techniques, and sketchbook features in the future. So subscribe. See you next time.